There is a question that has followed humanity for thousands of years, crossing every civilization, every era, and every cultural boundary. It is not a question about wealth, success, or power. It is a simple question, yet so profound that many people spend their entire lives without being able to answer it. Who am I, really? At first glance, that question seems easy. Most people believe they know themselves. They know their name, they know what they do for a living, they know their age, social status, achievements, and the failures they have experienced. But if all of those things were taken away, what would remain? If one day no one called your name anymore, if there were no titles left to be proud of, no roles left to cling to, would you still know who you are? This is where the journey of awakening begins. Most people go through life without realizing that they are seeing themselves through a distorted mirror. That mirror is created from the opinions of others, the expectations of society, the memories of the past, and the fears of the future. Day after day, we collect labels and place them upon ourselves: successful, failure, strong, weak, intelligent, ordinary, lovable, not good enough. And after many years, we begin to believe that those labels are who we truly are. But is that really true? According to Buddhist wisdom, much of human suffering arises from a very deep misunderstanding about who we are. We constantly identify ourselves with the thoughts appearing in our minds. We believe we are the emotions passing through our hearts. We think we are the stories the mind tells every day. And because of that, when negative thoughts arise, we feel that we are negative. When failure happens, we think we are failures. When others reject us, we begin to doubt our own worth. But pause for a moment and observe carefully. If a cloud drifts across the sky, is that cloud the sky itself? If waves rise upon the ocean, are those waves the entire ocean? In the same way, thoughts are merely visitors passing through the mind. Emotions are only temporary movements within the inner world. They come and go, they change continuously. Meanwhile, there is something within you that remains present, observing all of it. From childhood until today, your body has changed constantly. Old cells disappeared. New cells were formed. The face in the mirror no longer looks the same as it did many years ago. Your thoughts have changed as well. Your beliefs have changed. Your dreams have changed. Things that once seemed important may no longer hold meaning. Yet there remains a continuous sense of presence within, a quiet awareness that says, I am here. The strange thing is that we spend so much time trying to perfect our self-image and so little time discovering our true nature. We try to become somebody, we chase standards established by the world. We constantly compare ourselves with others. Every time we see someone more successful, wealthier, more famous, or happier, we feel that we are not enough. But what if that entire race is built upon a misunderstanding? What if your worth has never depended on what you possess? What if peace does not come from becoming a more perfect version of yourself, but from realizing that your true nature has never lacked anything from the very beginning? That is a shift powerful enough to transform the entire way you see life, because when you begin looking deeply within, you realize that much of the pain you carry does not truly come from the outside world. It comes from the stories you believe about yourself. It comes from the image you are trying to protect. It comes from the fear that you are not good enough, not successful enough, not important enough, or not loved enough. And then one day, as your observation grows deeper, you begin to see a truth that is profoundly liberating. You are not what other people think of you. You are not your successes or failures. You are not the mistakes of your past, nor are you the fears of your future. All of those things are merely layers of dust that have settled upon the mirror of awareness over the years. Behind all of that dust, there still exists a nature that is quiet, clear, and whole, a part of you that has never been wounded by the judgments of the world, a part of you whose value has never diminished because of failure, a part of you that remains complete even when life does not unfold according to your wishes. And if you truly understand this not merely through intellect, but through deep experience within your own soul, you will never see yourself the same way again. Because from that moment on, the journey is no longer about trying to become someone else. The journey becomes a return to the true self that has always been present within you, quietly waiting to be recognized. One of the most important discoveries on the path to enlightenment is not finding something new, but seeing what has always been there, long hidden beneath layers of obscurity. People often think that truth must be something extraordinary, mysterious, and difficult to grasp. But according to the wisdom of the Buddha, truth is often very simple, so simple that our complicated minds tend to overlook it. From childhood, we are taught how to become someone, but rarely taught how to understand ourselves. We learn how to compete, how to achieve, how to build an image, and how to seek recognition. Gradually, our entire lives become an endless project aimed at proving our worth. We strive to become smarter, more successful, more attractive, more loved, and in that journey, a silent belief begins to form. I only have value when I become something. That belief may seem harmless, but it is the source of a great deal of suffering, because if your value depends on success, then failure becomes a threat. If your value depends on the approval of others, then criticism becomes a wound. If your value depends on what you possess, then loss will make you feel diminished. Life is no longer a journey of experience. It becomes a constant battle to protect the image you have of yourself. What is remarkable is that this image has never been truly stable. It changes according to circumstances. Today you feel confident because you are praised. Tomorrow you feel insecure because you are rejected. Today you think you are successful. Tomorrow someone else appears and makes you feel that you are not enough. Your entire sense of self constantly fluctuates according to external conditions. That is why many people achieve the very things they once dreamed of and still feel empty. They believe happiness lies in the next destination. They think that when they get a better job, a larger house, more money, or greater admiration, the feeling of lack within will disappear. But when they achieve those things, they discover that the insecurity remains. It has simply put on a new set of clothes. According to the Buddhist perspective, the cause does not lie in what we achieve or fail to achieve. The cause lies in our attachment to a self that we believe is fixed. Observe your mind carefully during an ordinary day. At times you feel joyful. At times you feel sad. At times you are full of confidence. At times you doubt yourself. At times you love something. At other times you are no longer interested in that very thing. If all of these states are constantly changing, then which one is the real you? Many people spend their entire lives defending their thoughts, as though those thoughts are their essence. But thoughts are like clouds. They appear and then disappear, An idea that you completely believe today may become something you laugh at when you look back a few years later. If thoughts are always changing, how can they define who you are? The same is true of emotions. Anger may flare up intensely and then disappear a few hours later. Sadness may last for many days and then fade away without leaving a trace. If emotions come and go like waves, why do we treat them as our identity? Something remarkable begins to happen when you learn to observe rather than identify. When anger arises, instead of saying, "I am an angry person," you simply recognize there is anger arising. When fear appears, instead of thinking, "I am weak," you notice there is fear passing through. That small shift in awareness opens a very large door. You begin to realize that you are not what is appearing in the mind. You are the one who is aware of all those things. A person standing by the river bank can watch the water flow by without being carried away by the current. In the same way, as awareness develops, you can observe thoughts, emotions, and reactions passing through without being completely controlled by them. This is not indifference. This is freedom. For the first time in your life, you begin to sense the space between yourself and the stories created by the mind. Within that space, there is peace. Within that space, there is clarity. And within that space, much suffering begins to dissolve, because most suffering does not come from the event itself. It comes from the way we interpret that event. Two people may go through the same experience and respond in completely different ways. One sees it as an ending. The other sees it as the beginning of a new chapter. The difference is not in the circumstance. It is in perception. The Buddha once pointed out that the mind is like a mirror. Its nature is clear and reflective. But over time, the dust of craving, fear, anger, and ignorance settles upon its surface. We look into that mirror and imagine that the dust is our true nature. In reality, no one is born feeling unworthy. No one is born afraid of being judged. No one is born with envy, competition, or inferiority. These things are accumulated through experience, through social conditioning, and through the stories we repeat in our minds. That means they are not your true self. Behind all those layers of conditioning, there still exists a quiet presence, a part of you that does not grow old with the passing years. A part of you that does not change because of praise or criticism. A part of you that remains whole whether life brings success or failure. The deeper you look into this truth, the less you are controlled by external fluctuations. You no longer need to prove yourself to the world. You no longer live to gain approval from everyone. You begin to understand that your value is not something that needs to be created. It has always been there, and in that very moment, the way you see yourself begins to change. You are no longer a character trapped within the stories of the past. You are no longer a collection of mistakes or achievements. You are no longer the image imposed by society. You begin to see yourself as a stream of consciousness experiencing life, learning, growing, and awakening day by day. When you realize this, you will understand why the wise have always said that the greatest freedom is not controlling the outside world. The greatest freedom is being free from the illusions you hold about yourself. And from that moment, an entirely new life begins to unfold. Perhaps one of the most important moments in life is not when we achieve something great, nor when the world recognizes our worth. The most important moment may simply be the moment we pause long enough to look within and realize that we have been searching for far too long in places that could never give us the answer. For many years, even decades, people often live like travelers wandering through a desert. They move from one goal to another. They believe happiness lies ahead. They think that if they can achieve just one more thing, become one more version of themselves, life will finally feel complete. But when one mountain is conquered, another appears. When one desire is fulfilled, a new desire is born. The search seems never to end. The strange thing is that what we are searching for has never truly been outside of us. Peace is not found in praise, for if it depends on praise, a single criticism is enough to make us suffer. Worth is not found in success, for if it depends on success, failure becomes an obsession. Happiness is not found in perfectly controlling everything, for life is constantly changing and can never be completely controlled. Many people spend their entire lives trying to perfect their image of themselves while forgetting to discover their true nature. They carefully maintain the mask that the world sees without realizing that the face behind that mask longs to be understood. According to Buddhist wisdom, suffering does not arise because of who we are. Suffering arises because we are mistaken about who we are. We mistake passing thoughts for ourselves. We mistake temporary emotions for our true nature. We mistake failures from the past as definitions of the future. We mistake other people's opinions for our real worth, and from these misunderstandings, an entire world of insecurity is built. But one day, if awareness becomes deep enough, you begin to see things differently. You realize that thoughts come and go, but the one who is aware of the thoughts remains. Emotions change from hour to hour, but the presence observing those emotions remains. The body grows older with the passing years, but the awareness within seems to quietly witness every change. The roles in life continually change. At one time you are a child, at another, an adult, at one point a student, at another a teacher, sometimes successful, sometimes unsuccessful, but behind all those roles, there remains something that cannot be named, cannot be measured, and cannot be confined by any title. That is where freedom begins, because when you no longer identify yourself with things that are constantly changing, you are no longer swept away by every fluctuation of life. This does not mean becoming cold or detached from the world. On the contrary, you begin to live more deeply than ever before. You love without being overwhelmed by the fear of loss. You make an effort without becoming obsessed with outcomes. You become present with life instead of constantly resisting it. A flower blooms without needing to prove that it deserves to bloom. A river flows without asking permission to be a river. A star in the sky does not need recognition in order to shine. They simply are what they are. Human beings are no different. Your true worth has never been created by achievement. It is not born from comparison. It does not increase when you succeed, nor does it decrease when you fail. That worth has been present since the moment you entered this life. But to realize that, sometimes we must travel a very long road, a road through disappointments, losses, failures, and questions that seem to have no answers, not because life wants to punish us, but because sometimes only through those experiences can the layers of illusion gradually be peeled away. Many people think enlightenment means becoming something extraordinary, But perhaps enlightenment is far simpler than that. It is when you stop trying to become someone else. It is when you stop running from yourself. It is when you see every mask, every story, every fear, and realize that they were never your true nature. From that moment on, life begins to carry a completely different meaning. You no longer wake up every day trying to prove your worth. You wake up to experience life. You no longer see every challenge as evidence of your inadequacy. You see them as lessons on the journey of growth. You are no longer trapped in the past or excessively afraid of the future. You begin to appreciate the beauty of the present moment, where life is truly happening. And then, little by little, a profound peace begins to emerge. Not the kind of peace that comes because every problem disappears. Not the kind of peace that comes because the world becomes perfect. But the peace that appears when you stop fighting yourself. When you stop trying to become the version of yourself that others expect. When you stop carrying old judgments about yourself. When you stop searching for your worth in places where it can never be found. You begin to return to the stillness that has always been there. Return to the clear awareness behind every thought. Return to the true nature that has never been wounded by time, failure, or judgment. And perhaps that is what changes everything. Because when you truly see yourself in that way, you will never look at life the same way again. You will no longer see mistakes as the end of the story. You will no longer see difficulties as enemies. You will no longer see yourself as a deficient person trying to become complete. Instead, you begin to realize that you have